Here's a Walker County update, everyone. A deputy deemed ineligible to be a law enforcement officer in Alabama is currently working for the Walker County Sheriff's Office as a law enforcement officer in Alabama. And he even showed up to a hearing on Friday, March 21st, all dressed up in a full deputy's uniform, complete with a badge and gun, looking every inch the Barney Five. Back in February, the Alabama Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission, or APOSTIC for short, issued an order unanimously declaring that Andrew Neves McDonald is not eligible for law enforcement training, certification, or appointment in the state. Records show that Neves McDonald's certification in Arizona was suspended due to misconduct. In fact, he's even listed on the National Decertification Index, and that's a database that tracks law enforcement officers who have lost their certification due to disciplinary issues. According to Dandy Andy, he was just trying to help subdue an out-of-control suspect during an arrest. What actually happened is that he put his gun to a woman's head while she was in handcuffs. Well, that sounds like a little more than subduing. I think maybe Andy has control issues and possibly needs to take a class or two. But did Andy's disciplinary issues stop Sheriff Nick Smith and Chief Deputy Ralph Williams from hiring him as a deputy in 2024? Heck no, it didn't. Slick Nick requested a waiver from APOSTIC, citing that due to Andy's previous law enforcement experience and certification in Arizona, he didn't need no stinking training. Either Nick Browne and Ralph Williams didn't thoroughly investigate Andrew, or they just didn't care about his background. They might have even wanted him as a deputy because of his use of force. I mean, 2 of Nick's deputies have been charged with deprivation of rights for their use of excessive force when they arrested Tony Mitchell. So why not hire someone who is ineligible to be a deputy due to excessive force? The hearing was held because Jim Browne was fired as a deputy from the Walker County Sheriff's Department, and he was appealing that decision. Browne said he was fired for investigating Andrew Neves McDonald, but Nick Smith said it was because he didn't have a reason to investigate him. In other words, how dare you investigate someone I've hired illegally? And yes, kids, having Andrew work as a deputy while actively banned to be a deputy can be considered impersonating an officer, which surprisingly is against the law, even in Walker County. The board found in favor of Jim Browne and told Nick that his reasoning for firing Jim held no merit. But the word merit isn't even in Nick's vocabulary. I think it got lost somewhere with the words ethics and honesty. Because even though Jim Browne got his job back, Nick immediately put him on paid leave because Nick has the Alabama Bureau of Investigations looking into Jim Browne for investigating the deputy that Nick shouldn't have hired in the first place but did. Speaking of those deputies that were charged, one of them has agreed to plead guilty to those federal charges. Carpenter is the deputy who stomped on Tony's genitals while he was in handcuffs and lying on the ground. And then Carl kicked Tony as they were putting him in the patrol car. In his affidavit, Carl said that he had, quote, become accustomed to harming arrestees unnecessarily, consistent with the culture of the Walker County Sheriff's Office. He also said he didn't report the use of force to anyone, despite the sheriff and other officers being at the scene. Carl has now resigned from the sheriff's office. It seems as though more and more citizens of Walker County think that Nick Smith needs to follow suit. You can learn more about Walker County, Alabama, and why I'm covering them under the Tony Mitchell playlist. Stay tuned for more Walker County updates.
The previous images are probably more than likely definitely not accurate depictions of anyone in Walker County.